Hello all, and welcome back to the part 3 of my Unrepentant discontent for Borderlands 3. Thanks to all of you who have subscribed and watched the other two parts, and hello to all the new people watching this video. This section will cover the lore added in Borderlands 3 and small customization things that I missed in the previous section. This part will be shorter compared to the other two as there's actually not much left to cover. And I'm not going to make separate videos on trials and takedowns as there's a bunch of videos detailing these parts of content. However, the Handsome Jackpot analysis will come after this part, so if you're interested in that, then please consider subscribing. I hope you enjoyed the video. The third part of this series will be an in-depth look at all the lore added into Borderlands 3 and how it affects the overall universe as a whole. We'll start with our main characters, then go through all the relevant ecologues first. Amara the Siren is a crime fighter from the planet Partali. She's been fighting the gangs there as a vigilante, but after defeating them, she travels to Pandora in search of greater adventures. Next up we have Zane, former corporate assassin and younger brother of Captain and Baron Flint. It has been stated multiple times that Zane has worked for and against every major corporation in canon. Zane has also stated that he met Zero at an assassin bar and has been to Jack's hotel with Moxie. In his echo, he names off companies that want him dead. These include Hyperion, Pangolin, Maliwan, and 3 that are unrecognized: Cut Lord Kairu, Obsidian Block, and Hephaestus United. Zane has also worked with Clay, which is said during a conversation with him. Zane heads down to Pandora to lay low from these companies. It is very important that Zane is well traveled, as that could lead to us getting massive amounts of world building and lore out of him in future DLCs, or through a possible sequel. Next we have Flak, who is an indexing unit who one day gains self-awareness and is on a quest to find himself. In his ecologue, Flak mentions the Grand Archivist and the Talos Empire, which we again haven't heard of up to this point. Flak vaguely knows of Zero, and other than that there's not much known about Flak, and there's not much more to touch on. Lastly we have Mose, who was a Vladof soldier who gets sent on a suicide mission and survives. In her character trailer, it's seen that Vladof are fighting against Maliwan. In an echo from Borderlands 2, it is stated that Vladof Ursacor has wiped out a sect of Tediore troops in 3 days. This isn't touched on in the game, but is very interesting and could be elaborated on at a future point. That's honestly about all we get on our main characters, and hopefully we'll get more as future DLCs drop. Moving on from there, let's explore what the Crimson Raiders have been up to. From Ellie's logs, she says that the Raiders have taken a beating and have been chasing leads following the Vault map for years. She also recounts working on the Sanctuary 3. We get some bandit logs and some interesting stuff on Tyreen and Troy. We see Troy and Tyreen trying to convince the bandits to listen and to join them. It's actually really nice and funny, and we get to see their connection grow. I wish we just got to see this in game. Tyreen starts off very skittish and unsure of herself, and it's nice to see how she became super confident and cocky. After Tyreen's logs, there are some of Krieg. Krieg has been in a cave and trying to become sane, and it's kind of working. He wants to be sane for Maya, and he's able to talk out loud normally in a cave temporarily. We also get backstory on Krieg and Maya's relationship. Maya also gives her reasons for why she left for Athenas, being that she wanted to protect the planet, and that she wanted to find out more about her Siren heritage. We also get one of Krieg giving Tina lessons on how to be a psycho so she can blend in and go to a psycho party. There's logs between Brick and Tina's relationship too. We get a window into these connections, and when she's speaking to Krieg, she even slightly mentions Roland. Next, the Promethean logs. We'll start by having Marcus give us history on Atlas and an explanation on why they didn't appear in Borderlands 2, as the guns were installed with brickware. That means that when Atlas falls, the guns will deactivate themselves. And we know that Reese purchased them after he acquired the deed in Tales from the Borderlands. We get some windows into interactions that Zero has had with Lorelei, and we get to see Reese interact with her too. We also get to see Maliwan's harshness, as well as get to see a citizen find the Guardians and get killed by them. In another set of logs, we get some light details on Lecter City as well. There is a log with an interview with the head of Holloway Robotics who briefly references Gage, but we don't get anything more than that. Another interview also shows that Reese has had aggressive offers to be purchased as well. We get some filler audio logs, but then we stumble across something interesting. Reese has been having Zero and his spies look for Sasha from Tales from the Borderlands. This is the only time that this is mentioned, but it is a nice explanation of her absence. Also, Zero has a character quote implying that he cut off his pinkies. Then for our final set of logs on Promethea, we see how much of a monster Katagawa is. We also get to hear a little touch on the corporate war before he kills off many of his family members. On Athenas, we get unneeded backstory on Trant and a one-on-one interaction with Brother Sinon and Ava. We see that Sinon is plotting to overthrow Maya, and he has made a deal with Maliwan to get the key fragment. We get one last one with Ava and Maya, where Ava steals her book and actually cannot read what's inside of it. So this proves my point that Ava wouldn't have read the book anyway, and therefore shouldn't know how to control her powers yet. Point to me. Anyways, we also see that Maya is mumbling Nyriad in her sleep, which Maya and Ava have no idea as to who this person is, which is very interesting in itself. Our next planet to cover will be Eden 6. We get some history on Wainwright and Clay's relationship, and on Wainwright and Hammerlock's relationship. Wainwright doubts himself on being a Jacobs as well. Hammerlock is very supportive of him, and we get to see them bond. We also get backstory on Genevieve, and we get to see Montgomery Jacobs' personality. There's another log where drunk Wainwright tells Monty that he should give Jacobs to Clay, and he sticks up for himself in Hammerlock. There's a log of Balux and Genevieve interacting before things got messy between them as well. Clay and Hammerlock also talk about the impending mess coming to Eden 6 and Hammerlock and Aurelia's siblinghood. Clay reveals that Aurelia made an offer to purchase the Jacobs Corporation, and Hammerlock fears that she will do everything in her power to make his life hell. We also get an echo of Clay telling Monty about what's going on with the cold appearing on Eden. Finally, we get an echo of Hammerlock telling Wainwright his goodbyes while in jail. Our last planet logs is Necro-Defeo. 2 of the 4 are filler logs, but the other 2 are about Troy and Tyrene building a ship and escaping from the planet. It's good to see them interact, and Tyrene is even being supportive of Troy. Through these logs and the ones from earlier, it seems that Troy does have a good side. We also see Tyrene manipulate Troy into building a ship for them and abandon their dad. You can tell that Troy actually feels sorrowful for having to do this to his dad, which makes him a more sympathetic character. Again, I just wish we'd gotten to see that side of Troy firsthand. To see him struggle and be forced to act in ways that he doesn't want to, that he's redeemable, he has a good side to him. But unfortunately, that was wasted. It also would have been nice to have gotten more on why the B-Team exists, why it's separate from Lilith's Raiders, why Tina apparently interacts with Ava, which we don't get to see either. We also don't get echoes of Vaughn and Reese, or really any past character connections outside of Tina and Krieg and Brick and Tina. And the only 2 past Vault Hunters we got logs of are Krieg and a reference to Gage, and they're both not involved in the game at all. Axon and Salvador have no mention, and there's no clues as to where these 4 characters are right now. It is a major missed opportunity by Gearbox to fill in the gaps in the storytelling and to provide more world building. Maybe even giving us logs as to what else the Raiders are up to, or about the state of Hyperion now that Jack's been gone for 7 years. Or maybe we could have tied up the ending of the pre-sequel and the Watcher, unless that's supposed to be for a future game. A little world building would not have hurt the game. If anything, giving us hints to where these characters are would have stirred the pot in the community and got a lot of people talking about these characters or their importance in this story or the next. But for now, it's just a dead end, and that's the way it's going to stay unless the story team decides to touch on it in a new DLC. I actually cannot believe that we have gotten logs on all this useless bullshit. Outside of Krieg, outside of Tina and Brick interacting, it's ridiculous. How do you not give us anything on the B-Team? How do you not fill in these gaps? How do you not connect the events from Borderlands 2 and Borderlands 3 together in a nice bundle? I don't understand what is happening at the studio. If you were on the story team, if you're involved with this project, I have one simple question. Why? Why is this a fucking mess? Why is the script bleeding out all over the place? Why does the lore make no fucking sense? Why do we get lore on Lorelei being trans and everything else, and minor details about characters we don't care about? Where's the characters that we like? Where are the characters that we love? Where's Axton? Where's Gage? Where's Krieg? Where's Salvador? Why have they just disappeared suddenly? What happened to them? But no, I'm sure that we won't even bring them back in future DLCs, and if we do, I'd be very surprised. But if they get brought back in future DLCs, there's always a chance that they'll kill them off too, or involve Ava. So it's all downhill from here, folks. It's a downward spiral.
Downward spiral, downward spiral, downward spiral, downward spiral, downward spiral, downward spiral.
We just keep going further and further and further down. You can tell I've gone off script for this. I've gone off script for this part. This is just me ranting, being fucking frustrated at Gearbox. I don't understand. Oh, God. How do you fail to write a story? How do you fail on the most basic level, the most basic concepts of making a fucking lore that makes sense, that connects 2 games of your fucking franchise? The only franchise that's successful that you have, by the way. So you really don't want to mess this up. You really don't. You really don't want to take any stupid, unnecessary risks, or do anything stupid to the characters. You really don't. I think Gearbox has realized that they might have put themselves in a very bad position, considering they're trying to make a new IP called Godfall, and I'm sure that'll be a fucking train wreck too. I don't understand. Was Borderlands 2 a mistake? Was this just a one-off, one-time accident that just happened to be one of the best games of all time? Like, was this just an accident? What happened at Gearbox during this time? Because that's the golden age. That's like the renaissance of Gearbox. And here we are now, back in the dark age again. Immediately. I just hope that whenever Borderlands 2 gets remastered that they don't fuck it up. Borderlands 1 remastered was great, and I really want to do an Unrepentant discontent about that, because I do have some bones to pick with it, even though I love it. But god damn, man. It's fucking... I've just run out of things to say. I'm just disappointed now. After the rage subsides, there's only sadness to be found. Let's move on. Let's talk about the Typhon logs. Keep in mind I will be paraphrasing through these, as there's a lot of them with a lot of filler in them. I will basically do bullet points, then go into further detail if I feel is necessary, like I did with the Echoes. So we find out after a few logs that Typhon finds the vault key and the vault and sells it to old Atlas. Apparently before we meet Atlas, they are trying to recuperate for something called the Corporate Wars. Next, Typhon talks about how he was sent on a peace envoy by Atlas to make peace with the people on Athenas. He meets Queen Dido, the Siren Queen of Athenas, and apparently, Athenas calls to sirens, judging by what Typhon says. It's also shown that the Order of the Impending Storm, which Maya was a part of, already had bad intentions from the start. Atlas also had Typhon sign a non-compete clause, which he didn't follow. He then finds out that Atlas, instead of using the Vault Tech to improve Promethea, fled the people's money and used their funds to invest in their army. This created the Crimson Lance, which we meet in Borderlands 1. We also find out that Jacobs stayed out of the corporate war, and Wainwright introduces himself to Typhon. In the logs, Wainwright also made it clear that he did not want to be the CEO of Jacobs. It's revealed that Monty hired DeLeon to find the vault and say there is none, so that way no one else shows up to try and find it. DeLeon then goes back to Pandora to find Atlas searching for a vault. So one day a woman walks up to Typhon and asks him what he knows about the vaults. That woman is Leda, Typhon's soon-to-be wife, who is an Atlas researcher looking for the lost planet of the Iridians. She reveals the name to be Necrodofeo. In one log, Typhon says that him and Leda are preparing to head out to find the Iridian homeworld. Later on, we hear that Typhon and Leda are marooned on Necrodofeo. We also see that Typhon and his wife open the vault, kill the monster, and have sex in it. This line may seem like a throwaway, but it's not, and when we read Nyriad's logs, it'll be explained why. Moving on to Nyriad's logs, it starts off by Nyriad, who is the one who sealed the destroyer and killed all the Iridians. She states that the Iridians built Pandora as a cage to seal away the destroyer. Since Borderlands 1, it has been stated that Pandora calls to vault hunters to open it, and this call is actually to fake vaults that are feeding slots for the destroyer, such as the one in Borderlands 1 that Steel opens. Nyriad reveals that some Iridians tried to make a deal with the destroyer to destroy Pandora to save their souls, and in response to this, the Iridians created the warrior to kill all those trespassing against Pandora. Iridians also disguised the key as Elpis because they could not find a way to get rid of it after they were gone. The destroyer is described as a mouth with a never-ending appetite, and it is also suggested that it is the will of the universe that sirens come together. As Nyriad had a siren sisterhood, full of sirens who were trained to hide from humanity, as humanity has hunted them and treated them like witches. It is revealed that sirens can pass down their powers, and it is stated as a gift and a curse, and a siren can choose to give the gift to someone who is worthy, or to an unsuspecting soul. The Iridians also made the Guardians in the Iridians' absence. They mirror their creators, and they are more or less robots run off of instructions. They are there to protect the vaults from anybody who tries to open them. In the logs following this, Nyriad also states that some Guardians are keener, some make their own decisions and talk. It also seems that the Guardians can change themselves to their needs, such as shapeshifting. Nyriad says that a soul of a Guardian is data that is transferable to a new shell. She then goes on to say that the machine required 1 billion Iridian lives to power it and seal away the destroyer, and she laments having to kill them. It's also discussed that as she did it, one Guardian watched her, titled the Watcher, which is a possible reference to the Watcher of the pre-sequel. It's also discussed that the Iridian term for homeworld means first landing, but that's never discussed past this. In the last logs, Nyriad says that she left these logs as an epitaph for her old world, and she talks about how her siren sisters fled from her. She says that when she dies, she will go to the Iridian homeworld's vault and die in there, to seal away her leech thread. And the last notable thing from Nyriad is that she states to never find the 7th siren. And that's all we get from the logs. So to summarize the important bits, the Iridians, through exploring the universe, had found the destroyer by accident. They became aware of its presence and knew they would suffer the same fate the planets and civilizations before them had. So they created Pandora as the Great Vault to seal it away. They created the machine, and they devised a way for some to access the destroyer by making a fake vault that was its feeding tube. It would be opened once every 200 years. Some Iridians tried to sabotage Pandora's construction, which led the Iridians to make another fake vault which held the warrior from Borderlands 2, the Protector of Pandora. At some point, the Iridians knew that a sacrifice had to be made, and that they couldn't get rid of the key that would seal away the destroyer, so they disguised it as the Moon of Elpis. To seal away the destroyer, they asked Nyriad to power the machine that they had to build to perform this task, but leeching all their lives so the universe would be safe. It's also vital that we never find the 7th, hinted that it could have catastrophic effects, somewhat suggesting the end of the universe. That's really it for the new important lore added to the universe, and I'm sure that I missed a few things, so if I did, let me know in the comments section down below. But as I stated in my rant earlier, there's really not much that is actually affecting the universe or affecting our characters. It's kinda like this game was designed to be a spin-off, and as a main series title, that's not how this should go. And whatever the case may be, I'm sure you've heard me rant about the flaws of the lore and the story enough. So, we'll save what's left of that for the actual summary of Borderlands 3, which will be 2 parts from now. So, hope to see you guys there. So this is something I decided to hold off talking about my part 2 of the Borderlands critique, as that video already had a bunch of stuff in it, so I decided to put it in here. So let's start with the player customizations. Heads and skins from Borderlands 2 make a return, except now we have the color option. We can change the primary, secondary, and accent color of our characters. This is something that, while small, is fantastic. This gives much more freedom to the player for how they want their character to look. Gearbox have also added emotes, which is interesting, and it's a nice social change. Or would be if the player base wasn't hemorrhaging. Next up we have Echo skins, which with the amount we actually get to see our Echo in-game makes this a nice touch. It's small, but it's still nice. Another new option are weapon skins, which can help make some rather ugly looking weapons look brand new. Although unfortunately there aren't a lot of them. Some of them, such as Hot Blooded, Thunderhead, Deep Nebula, and Ghoul Metal Grey, are some personal favorites. Most of the skins are however unique, and I hope the Gearbox adds more future DLCs. We also get little weapon trinkets that help give them some personal flair. My favorites being Cloak and Swagger, Book of the Storm, and Action Axton. Next up for customization is the player's room. This holds our safe, letting us swap gear between characters. We can also place weapons and items on the walls. This again helps with the social aspects of the game just by having something to start a conversation over. Maybe you see something on your friend's wall and you say, "Hey, where'd you get that?" It's little, but interesting. Finally for customization is the vehicles. Gearbox has given us ways to get new parts by hijacking and or finding new vehicles with new parts. We can customize paint job, the turret weapon, main weapon, armor, tires, mods, and wheels. This level of freedom on customization is well done, and I personally hope to see it return in future titles and IPs. Something I also missed in my gameplay critique was Guardian rank. Guardian rank replaces Badass rank in this game. This time around, instead of just completing challenges to earn it, you have to fill up an XP bar unlocked after beating the story. This gives us the same stats from Bar and Borderlands 2, such as fire rate, play for your lifetime, accuracy, and some others. This time, a stat called Luck is added, which is an added chance for a blue to a legendary to drop, and everything related to elemental damage is removed. There's also unlock trees, which split into 3 categories: Enforcer, Survivor, and Hunted. Enforcer is all damage, Survivor is shield and health bonuses, and Hunter is action skill and weapon stats other than damage. Each tree grants different skins and perks for unlocking them, and each have a different required number of tokens. It's a step in the right direction, at least I think so. The actual challenges, reminiscent of Borderlands 2, which can be found in the directory, give different amounts of Iridium depending on which challenge is completed. It's a decent way to keep them relevant, though they aren't really worth focusing on. Doing challenges for 1 or 3 Iridium is just not all that enticing, at least to me, but hey, maybe you feel different. That's all I really wanted to discuss in this section of the Borderlands 3 critique. I was going to go over my planet and enemy designs, but I couldn't translate my thoughts coherently, so I decided to cut that from the script entirely. It is much shorter than the other 2, that I know. This is also due to me getting a bit burnt out on talking about the game, so the next video will probably be about Smash Melee, or something else. But don't worry, parts 4, 5, and 6 will be underway in a bit, so if you're looking forward to that, then don't lose hope. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and until next time.